This is Terry, so I'll call the meeting to order since Tom is working his way upstairs.
You called the meeting to order?
Yeah.
Just now.
I did not hear that.
Just-
You did hear it.
All right, did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting and the agenda?
Yes.
All in favor of supporting it? Aye.
Aye.
Any noes?
I want to take a motion. Take a motion first
Okay, let's take a motion
to approve the minutes.
to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Okay, so that was Elizabeth.
Elizabeth motioned and Bill seconded. Veronica.
Tom, get over here and do your job.
Tom, your vice plan B isn't working out so well, so just heads up.
Hello? There we go. Sorry about being late. Where we at?
Public comments.
The meeting's been opened and
All right, so new business, we're past public comments since there's no public here. All right, and on to new business.
I'll hand it over to Christina just for the high level discussion, preliminary discussion on the FY 25 MSD operating budget.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So what you see here is just a quick overview of the budget proposals for this fiscal year. Mainly, we are trying to support MSD retention and MSD operations with this budget, while trying to keep our baseline within the current budget for this fiscal year. So within the approved budget for this fiscal year, it's $584,258. And in the next line item, I was doing my best to try and keep that within that same total expense by removing a little bit of our special project funding. We also had an increase. I was just notified by Peer that the data platform that we are using to do the economic impact surveys on the Central Business District, that is going up by $600. And as we're looking towards future MSD surveys, we need to hold a line item of at least $2,500 for sending out those surveys and conducting marketing and initiatives behind it to try and get people to engage and send their responses back. So the proposal A is just those ads plus the 3% salary increase for all block by block employees. The second line item, proposal 1A, is a 5% increase in their salaries and eliminating special projects completely, but still keeping the $4,000 within the general fund. And that boosts up just a little bit more over what our current budget is for this fiscal year. The second is the wage increases across the board for starting salaries for MSD employees. We are below market in regards to similar or larger cities for what we're paying starting salary for our MSD employees. In order to remain competitive, we could keep the 3% salary increase, or we can just bump up starting pay for ambassador employees to $17 or $18 per hour. Just for instance, right now we are at team leader starting salary is $17.75, but for ambassadors, we're paying them $15.45 as a starting rate. By comparison, Frederick, Maryland is at $17.25 starting. Roanoke, Virginia is at $17. Myrtle Beach is at $16.50, which is the next lowest as far as our competitive cities are concerned. And then taking a look at Charlotte, much larger city, it's $21 an hour. Downtown Raleigh is 18, and downtown Norfolk is 18 as well. Yes, sir.
Are we having any difficulty getting employees?
Recruitment is a process. I think keeping staff has been, we've had more success over the past 2 fiscal years than we've had in the past. In order to keep that momentum going, at least a 3% salary increase is needed. But we still have trouble keeping, for instance, this is no news, we're losing our wonderful team leader, Thomas, this month.
Because
He's taking a job somewhere else for higher pay and better benefits.
Do these numbers?
At the city, I believe.
the city is hiring one of our employees.
Not my department.
Do these numbers include benefits?
Yes, so this is all inclusive of what WDI would be paying. So the $438,000 figure that you see in the total personnel line is the bill, is all, everything included plus the bill rate for WDI.
Christina, just a question. With the 3%, 5%, and 17, 18 starting range, is there any like compaction? That may not be the right word, but like the employees that have been there 2, 3, 4 years, right? If they get the 3% or the 5%, does the starting range stay the same?
Yes.
So you're bringing in new employees at the base range, and then everyone else gets 3 to 5%, right?
Yes, sir.
If you were to go up to the 17, 18 starting pay, what does that do to the employees that are making less than 17 or 18 now? Do they go to 17 or 18 just like new hires, or do they go to 17 and 18 plus 3% or wherever they were above that base hiring? That makes sense?
Yes, that's a good question, and that's something I'll have to speak
Okay.
with our contractor about.
Just some of the challenges the city has had with some increases on frontline employees, the RTS team, Public Works, and just where that shift comes in when you're starting out new employees at a much higher rate than some of them started at in previous years, and how that kind of calculates in the domino effect. So just curious.
Yeah, I'll ask and see what recommendations they can have for our tenured employees if we do a base
Yeah.
starting
And
salary.
as an FYI, and just comparable, our parking contractor, we kind of changed the contract around with the city and our new parking contractor. And we're bringing in those employees now at $18 an hour starting pay. But we didn't increase anyone that had been there previously. Basically, those frontline employees that may have been making more than the starting wage prior, everyone came in and was put at that flat $18 because it was seen as an increase. And as things flow up from there with annual increases, we're going to keep the starting at 18. So if you're there for a long period
Recording
of
in
time,
progress.
then you're be in a better situation when we started everyone out at and kept everyone at that 18, just as a comparable.
Okay.
Have you looked at merit-based adjustments?
Speak.
Have you looked at merit-based adjustments for those employees that have been around for 3 or 4 years?
So you're saying doing a
If
combination?
you do an evaluation of the employee, if they become an outstanding or a deserving increase,
We have to do that on a contract by contract basis.
so it limits you on
It does.
that. Okay.
But we do, very small bonuses around the holidays for the employees, and that's pretty much WDI's way of showing appreciation for our ambassador staff that we have.
Yeah, my personal experience,
our candidate.
I was in a manufacturing company with a lot of employees, and at one time, they did look at holding the line on the service one of 3 to 5 years. Didn't work. Too much disgruntlement. And on top of it, you got a situation with your ambassadors program, they're working outside. So they're exposed to all these conditions, and that's an aggravating factor.
And so,
So, anyways. Just one
And-
point of view.
just a reminder to all, I think some of the committee members have been here for a few years, are aware, kind of working in the dark right now. We're working off of last year's base number that came from the city and the tax collection. I have not received that number. I haven't even received preliminary figures. Some of the tax numbers that come in from the county come in pretty late. So I'm working on at least getting a preliminary number for Christina to work with, but as of right now, really, she's just been given that baseline, 584, 258 that we had last year.
No, I think it's well presented, and like you say, until we know what the assessment line is,
Yep.
we'll know or not know what kind of flexibility we have.
And
Do you have any idea when, or do we know when the couple of getting tax abatements are rolling off? Is that this year or next
On
year?
Brownsfield,
Yeah.
I think it varies property by property where they're at. Some of them are further along in that 5-year process than others. I can certainly get that spreadsheet from Budget Finance and send it out so everyone's aware. If like Pier 33,
River Place is going into its 4th year.
4th year? Well, I was gonna say Sawmill should be coming off then.
Sawmill's probably coming off. Pier 33 and River Place are nearing its 5 years.
There's 2 more years.
Flats on Front a little bit earlier.
Yeah,
So I
they should be
can,
rolling off very
I can
soon,
get
too.
that spreadsheet just so everyone's aware. And just a reminder, I don't have that exact number, but in the fund balance, the MSC fund balance, unused fund balance through the years, there's still over $500,000 in that fund balance. So, special projects, landscaping, expansion of lighting, whatever that fits in, beautification, security, whatever that fits in our wheelhouse of what we can and can't do. I mean, there's still that money out there for some one-time uses, so.
And my other question was gonna be, have we heard anything back from the city as far as, or any plans on where we are with the funds that were used to pay for the additional officers?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard any changes from use of that, roughly $180,000 to fund those, to continually fund those
Okay.
officers. I have not heard any change from that.
Okay.
That number probably increases too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that,
A question,
yes, sir.
the outreach specialist line item goes from 83,000 to 172,000 this year?
I haven't gotten to that just yet. So
Okay.
just to answer your question quickly, that is for another ambassador as a street outreach worker.
So a Jack plus an assistant,
Okay, I'm just questioning the team leader, his responsibility is not as important as the outreach specialist. And the reason why we lost him is he's going for a better paying job. I just see he's making 60,000 and the outreach specialist is, $25,000 more, so I can see why he left.
So first, those are the bill rates that we put into each. So that's salary plus the billing rate, all tacked into one figure for each line on the personnel list.
Yeah, Bobby, that's salary plus payroll load, plus benefits, plus block by blocks fee on top of that, correct?
yeah,
Yes.
that's total payroll burden, all in.
But I see your point.
And Bobby, to your first question about the additional monies for the outreach, I think her proposal C is if the funding is present, a possibility is to add a second outreach person to assist in Jack's duties, correct?
Yeah, so proposal C adds, brings up everybody to the standard starting wage. And then, as far as the outreach and ambassadors, it adds one full-time ambassador and another full-time street outreach worker. If we're in since we're now in budget considerations, we can opt to, kind of work that a little bit more if we don't feel like we need another street outreach worker, but we do feel we need an ambassador. I can resubmit proposal C, which will significantly reduce down the cost of the final total for proposal C and total expenses. So, moving forward, proposal A1 is, again, we're eliminating special projects throughout, and keeping the adding $2,500 into our marketing for the MSD surveys, which we need to pick back up again. And just tacking on those salary increases incrementally, and then the proposal C adding extra staff to the program. The thinking here, and just, the first proposal, just our baseline proposal is, as the city continues to evaluate how our tax values are going to fluctuate with so many components. I mean, with the Brownsfield property and the city properties that are now in surplus and that sort of thing, it may be good just to hold the line for a little bit. But I wanted to present all options that we can consider moving forward if we find out that we're going to be given a little wiggle room within our budget this year.
Christine, under marketing, what is the 20,000 personnel?
That is for salaries, for WDI salary, employee salaries.
So Caitlin, right? Half of Caitlin's salary.
Yes.
I think I'm going to speak on behalf of people paying those taxes. We're very, very, very heavy on salaries, and 40,000 going to actual tangible, not homelessness. I think Nancy, Bobby, y'all speak up on that one. I think that's the concern with the property owners. We don't do the baskets, but what else, what are we doing other than the ambassadors now and the homeless?
Jacksonville, North Carolina, I've mentioned before, the police force paid for the social worker for homeless people. And so that would be, coming back to MSD for 2. And I think that would be something appropriate for WPD if they want to hire a social worker for homelessness, but we've already got one very well paid in that position.
I would agree, we have one very well paid position at this time. Has the homeless population decreased, increased, things like that? I know he's done some good things, but having 2 at this point, I don't think is feasible.
Sure. Well, I can rework proposal C if that's the consensus among the committee members, to take that salary out. What are the committee's wishes for the extra ambassador?
If the funding's present.
If the funding is present? Or do we take that potential salary and or do something else with proposal C? This is working. This is a working budget. Nothing is final.
I think that's my point, that Christina's just bringing up. Do we really have to close off an expense budget before we really know what the assessments are?
No.
Is the city pining for us to show what we're willing to go on a budget?
Yeah, it's just a work session, similar to what we did last year.
And if that's the case, I agree
Yeah,
with the way that
it's strict.
Christina's outlined these things.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can make any decisions.
No, this is just like we did last year. This is strictly a work session.
Yeah.
It's gonna take us, I think we have until March. I think March at the latest
Right.
to really get a a voice of support or no support on a final budget. Be great if we had this wrapped up in February, but we also need that final number from the city and the budget
Yeah,
office, which
absolutely.
we don't have yet. So we're kind of shooting an arrow at a target that we don't know yet, and this is just hey, let's working off base, working off some other options if the funding increases, and it's really just work session, that's it.
Yeah, I understand. I think that the thing to me is that, as people previously outlined, I mean, this is really more about personnel and marketing, and very little actually at this stage, taking away from projects. To me, being a member of the MSD, I get more excited about potential projects than just custodial on what we're doing currently.
I like the proposal A that retains special projects, to your point. That's kind of important. We're not a jobs program, we are a beautification safety endeavor.
Well, on behalf of the operations side, I think it's evident through the photos how much beautification our ambassadors actually conduct on a daily basis. There's a lot of cleaning to do, and I work very closely with the operations manager to try and make sure that this district is clean and stays clean to the best of our ability. I taking into consideration that this program has not changed much, just by way of salaries, yes, but in terms of hours and staffing, this program hasn't changed, yet we've added 1,400 new apartments since 2017. We've added a 7,000 person concert venue that, quite frankly, it takes a lot of manpower to help clean up afterwards. And we're dealing with a constant encampment situation cleanup all across the district with the unhoused. If you look and review through your reports, there's a lot of beautification that is actually happening every day within our ambassadors program, which is the reason why I'm trying to push for at least retaining the staff that we have at the very base. And special projects is, we conducted a great special project this year, and I can update the committee on the Holiday Lights special pilot project that we did this year. I also would like, everyone to consider as well, we have that $500,000 or so left in the fund balance that we can pull out for a special project this year to do something large scale. And at some point, maybe the committee, could consider how much we want to pull out this year, so we can try and figure out what we can do within the means of a budget. Or we just leave it again this year, and I can continue to massage this budget a little bit more to keep that special projects line item. And maybe put more into the general for landscaping, holiday decorations, alleyway activation, any number of those sub line items under general.
See, I'm a proponent of the ambassadors program and everything that's currently in the budget, and I don't want to take anything away from it. If anything, we'd like to increase it if we looked and understood our assessments.
Okay.
But going beyond that, I think, we went through, 2 or 3 sessions last year talking about go forward program. Remember, we went through like medium term, long term. Why don't we bring that back out? And maybe we should be taking a look at that 500,000 and doing something about it, getting something that's bold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's there for, we've talked about this, at least I've been here at the tail end of 2 years ago, and then last year, it's there, it's for the MSD use. I would recommend the committee to really look at that and come up with some ideas, because if we don't come up with some ideas, at some point, council might come up with some ideas,
Exactly.
or some others might come up with some ideas that the committee may not be in support of, that council wants to do. So, it's it's not a use it or lose it, it's sitting there, so it's, you know, and Terry, just a question from what you're hearing. It sounds like some stakeholders and owners that are paying into the MSD fund really want to see outward facing progress. Difference.
Yeah.
What are they looking for? Have they given you any ideas, or it's just?
Alleys, I mean, and a lot of this, they have said, oh, it's on the shoulders of the city, but this, the only alley we've done anything with, James Good and I put most of the money in, right?
Yep.
And it really, I mean, we run the homeless out of there as often as we can, but that's what they're saying. They want the alleys safe so people, because people walk down there, they're walking back and forth through the river walk. Intangible, just, they appreciate, everybody loves the ambassador program, they appreciate it, but they want to see return on their investment, something they can touch. So beautification, my thought is as we see additional money come in from the brownfields credit disappearing, let's put a little more money in that physical appearance budget. Don't take it away from services. I mean, you're right, it's vital. Because even with Live Nation, I don't think we, as a city, MSD, we don't see a return on into our bucket of money from the programs at Live Nation. That's sales tax and things like that, but
You see a piece of the sales
Yeah, we
tax,
do.
there's a downtown allocation.
they are putting.
The state sales tax, there's a downtown allocation. If
Yeah.
you look at it,
Which is
the grand
the
scheme of
budget, that's
things,
usually the last number that comes in.
and if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's almost, it's not dead on, but it's almost like the sales tax allocation pays for the police officer portion of this.
Mhm.
And then that true MSD tax coming from property owners is nearly covering
Everything else.
Yeah.
everything else. If you look at it that way,
Yeah, yeah.
on the actual funding breakdown.
Mhm.
And to speak a little bit to the safety part, after the shooting, Christina put on a phenomenal program with some business owners and with the police. And one thing we had kicked around is possibly doing another facade improvement grant program, but doing it with funding exterior cameras for any business that wants it, so long as they tie in the Sting Center.
We did that on Castle Street 8 years ago. Now our firehouse, the cameras are linked to the Sting Center. So, I mean, that's,
But again, funded very similar to what the facade improvement grant is. So the MSD would pay for your cameras so long as you sign a, 5-year MOU or 10, whatever it is with.
I think we paid about $300 a quarter for the cameras.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to pay for the service.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, work session,
Yeah.
this is first step. So I think got 30 days, especially on the special project, fund balance use, let's
Use it.
nail down some ideas. Something I mentioned to Christina is if out of that budget, if it's even allowed, can we pull out 100,000, let's throw this number out there, for a one-time special project use, but just not have that nailed down on what we want to use it for yet, in the budget. I think that would give us time and be helpful. Hey, MSD is recommending X budget with 100,000 pulled out, one-time use. We're still trying to nail down what we're gonna use that for. I need to ask her or ask the budget office if that's allowed, and I'm pretty sure it is, so.
And to speak to,
Fund balance,
Come again?
a minimum for the fund balance. There is no minimum.
I think most state public fund balances try to stay in the 15 to 20% range. I mean, we're nearing, 89% of our normal operating budget, so we're still very healthy.
So if we did something kind of combining a lot of things that different people have been talking about, I think the values on the street are where you're gonna find the safety, and if you actually get some cleanliness from that, and those are things that you may not see as real tangible, other than the fact that there's not trash there.
Yep.
Or that somebody cleaned it up. But if we did that and funded the bodies to be there, and then our special projects that would be missing from those, be that $100,000 a year that we pull out, and we say that we'll do this, and that 100,000 goes to special projects, or wherever it needs to go.
It's needed.
That would be a good course of action, in my opinion.
agree. And to speak a little bit to Terry's point on the alleys, do we know, again, so we don't get back into another tree well 3-year long thing. Where's the jurisdictional line with working on some of these houses?
It's got to get kicked off, I think, on the city side and guided on the city side, and trust me, I've been working a lot on it.
Yeah, sure. I just want to ask the
There's
question.
not a lot of progress. It's a tough one. What I have been looking at behind the scenes of the alleys is really twofold. Number one, developing policies and procedures directly related to the alleys, because I think Betancourt's a great example. James Goodnight came in with his development there, poured some money into it. CPA, city, utility piece poured some money into it, and it's still messy. You know, there's linen bins everywhere, there's dirty grease traps, there's lighting issues. So I think before we get to a point of truly improvement, part of the improvement process is developing some policies and procedures that really put some onus and controls on these businesses that are using the alleys and bordering the alleys so that they can be maintained when further improvements are put in. Betancourt, through parking, we're about to put in 2 new lights in that alley, tacking onto the surface lot, Duke Energy bill there. And then there's a city C3A project on the 3 south alleys of South Front. I think it's the 2 that borders Nicky's on one side,
Yeah.
and then the other one, there's 3 in a row. That project's funded, really surface utility work, and that can hopefully be a good starting point of if we can get some scope on kind of alley policies, so that they can be cleaned up and maintained. Who takes what role, whether it's stormwater, MSD, the owner, you know, really having that presented. I think that could be a good starting point for then some quote unquote improvements, lighting, you know, private ownership, activation, and stuff like that.
It's a great idea.
So it's tough. Alleys is a tough one because you got a piece of public property that abuts and runs through adjoining private ownership.
Oh, absolutely.
And the mix of service versus non-service, pedestrian versus non-pedestrian, and I truly don't want to spend $100,000 on another alley and then it just turn back into a mess. So I think there needs to be some concerted efforts on some policies here.
And again, another option, I don't know if this was broached yet, with being late, but Christina, has any of your proposals that not only adding an ambassador or 2, but increasing hours?
None of this increases our hours,
So
except for
that-
an extra 40 hours per week for an extra ambassador, but the total hours would remain at 144 hours per week.
That's something we could also talk about too, is again, going back to the clean, safe, and the safe issue, again, with the meeting she had put on, there were several business owners that appeared that some of them were young ladies and felt very uncomfortable with walking out at night and weren't aware that they could call an ambassador to come, you know, do an escort. Or where the police would also do it at some point. So do we keep some marketing and targeted efforts for things like that to let people know, listen, we're here to help. You know, if there's a homeless guy that peeps in your back alley, call us. You know, we'll be there immediately. So extend some of the hours to be able to get people later in the afternoon, you know, later in the evening to help do courtesy walks and things like that.
Tom, I'll tell you a funny thing related to that. There's a group of ladies that own a hair salon downtown, and they called and asked, you know, they stopped me. They said, can we have the ambassadors walk us to our car at the end of the day because we're beautiful? Okay. I said, yes, you can call the ambassadors and they'll walk you to your car.
Hell, if they're really beautiful, call us.
I know. They won't walk the ugly
That's
ones.
right, call Bill.
They were serious.
They were worried because there was an assault.
Yeah.
I think from that work session you guys had, I know Christina did a great job from the business owners that I work with. The lady that owns Beer Barrio said, well, I feel pretty safe because Zimmer hires police. Well, Zimmer's gone.
They're gone.
And that's a really bad thing
Yeah.
for safety downtown, to lose, they've been here for generations. And so one of the things that helped her get to and from her car and her customers was a private paid security force that's no
Yeah.
longer present. If you drive by that Zimmer site now, it's just a void.
Mhm.
So that's unfortunate. We're losing people.
Yep. So,
So I'm with you. I think if, I'm always looking at if the press gets a hold of things, what are they gonna do with it? If we did look at, say, 100,000 a year that we could allocate towards special projects that are more visible and tangible, I
Agreed.
think that would pacify more people.
I'm with you too, 100%.
Okay, good notes, to be continued.
Okay.
Brings back at least for the probably the next 3 months. So, and hopefully have a figure to work with.
That's great.
Any
Hey,
other-
James,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. This is Ray. So, it seems like we're gonna lose, a significant amount of our budget from, the purchase of the thermal official building. And then, the city has all these other buildings that they're gonna be putting up for sale. It just seems like unfair that, we're gonna be losing that money. Is there the way of going to the city and saying that, well, once you sell these buildings, can we get some of the some money, that from the money that we're losing from these tax dollars?
Ray, I think there's two things. Number one, on the Thermo Fisher purchase, taking that off the tax rolls, I believe we were told last year that the MSD would be held harmless from that purchase. And I think this year's budget accounted for some of that potential loss, but it was not taken away, but I'll get some clarification on that. The second part, as the city sells the publicly owned properties, that will go back on the tax rolls and then go into the MSD. So maybe I was a little confused by the second part of your question, but the parcels that are owned by the city currently, including this building across the street, 305 Chestnut, and the 5 or 6 parcels on the north end, including 2 empties from the Thermo Fisher purchase. Once those are sold and disposed of by the city, then that would then go back onto the property tax rolls as well as the MSD tax rolls.
Do you have an idea of when those properties might be sold?
It's really market related, honestly. Like the building we're in now, 115 North 3rd, has been surplus and is actively being marketed by our economic development team. Same with 305 Chestnut. It's been surplus and is being actively marketed. The parcels attached to Thermo and the Gateway properties, I think to be determined on those, but the 3 close by here that were owned by the city, 305 Chestnut, 115 North 3rd, and the condoed out floor on 4th Street have been surplused officially by the city, and we're trying to sell.
Now, was told today.
You know any owners, right? You know any potential prospects?
To buy office building? Yeah, that's a great time.
They're for sale.
And the Parks and Rec building's been committed already, so there's movement.
Yeah, Parks and Rec building outside of the MSD, unfortunately, but yeah, Parks and Rec's a good example that was surplus and sold. The property that came from the resolution with Peter Koch on 200 South Front, 300 South Front. There's been an offer put on that. I think we're going through closing. So there's movement on some of the small buildings. But I was told, I believe Christine and I were both told that the MSD was going to be held harmless by the Thermo Fisher purchase. So you shouldn't see any decrease. I think it was a total of $75,000 worth of MSD tax revenue that could be possibly lost, but I believe that was we were going to be held harmless from that purchase.
So the city's gonna pay the tax on it?
Correct, I believe, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
What about the county business, building on 3rd Street?
That one is probably, that's officially owned by the county now, so that one's off the roll. So yeah, you could see some impact there.
The county's not gonna hold us harmless.
I wouldn't count on that. But you've also got a very large county project right across the street here, Project Grace, that is going to add some substantial
It'll come in.
substantial tax value over the next, I'd say, 18 to 36 months roughly. I think the private portion is probably around the 24 to 36 month. Lead time.
What's the Michael Jordan second, public-private combination thereof? That's,
Yeah, that one was the new one, yeah. But the sole private portion on the north end, where the library is now, is what, 24, 36 months out, something like that.
it probably.
So that'll be a significant impact coming back. Or getting added, not even coming back, getting added to, getting added to that isn't present.
Christina, before you close, I'm interested in the $15,000 holiday lighting report, the grant that we gave to WDI, and the use of that, and because I noticed the proposal that was presented to us wasn't fulfilled, and a lot of lights ended up outside of the MSD on City Hall, which is not, that's not MSD, I don't believe. 102 North 3rd Street, I don't think that's in the MSD district.
Yes, it is.
That is, yeah.
We'll have to look at this map I printed out on that internet. But yeah, I'd be interested in a report on, is all the 15,000, was that all used by WDI with what was decorated?
Yes, so it was 15,000 from the MSD fund, it was 15,000 from WDI, and then we had tacked on the outside of $10,000 from Bring It Downtown. We were right at around 30,000 for this specific project. The holiday lights that went on Thalian Hall were actually, it was sponsored by WDI and not through the MSD. So that did not come out of the $15,000. So every bit of the Riverwalk lights and the lights that were on the visitor center, that was all MSD funding and WDI funding. We have the lights for, in our inventory now. And they're being stored underneath the city's parking deck at the convention center. And it was a challenge. There was a lot of lessons learned. We were limited by the infrastructure that the city has. We could not go south of Meters Park. There's no plugs on those particular light posts, so we couldn't extend Riverwalk south of Meters Park. But I went as far as the plugs could take us, and we ended up adding on Meters Park instead.
And I think what was presented to the MSC also included the 0 block of Market Street there. It's kind of a gateway to the Riverwalk. Both Christina and I tried every possible plausible effort we could to get power to light those trees through there, and it just wasn't possible. The infrastructure that maintains that block is decades old. Got some conduit running underneath the street there that's exposed. You've got a lot of old cast iron type piping that's running through that's failed. Behind the scenes, we're looking at hopefully getting some corrections there without doing a major streetscaping project. But we truly did our best to light that block. It just ended up not being possible in terms of just connectivity and power.
Well, we exhausted 15,000, and hopefully in the future we can think about those things before, because there was nothing during the Christmas tree lighting, nothing to get the families exciting, and what was put up was kind of pedestrian things that one of us could buy at Lowe's and string around. So hopefully, good idea, but maybe better
I'm
implementation.
tired of this, I'm tired of hearing from everybody. Look, this was a pilot program, all right? We had way more funding than what actually went into it. We exhausted all this, we worked on the volunteers, we were gonna buy it ourselves, try to figure out the insurance. The city's very restrictive on who can do what, where. All right, if you like the lights where they are, that's great. That's what a pilot program is about. Next year, if you want them in front of everywhere, then we need to work on funding them everywhere. All right? The negative press that we've gotten on this is absolutely absurd to me. Absolutely absurd. And I don't get worked up about a lot of stuff. I think it was a great program. I wish it was everywhere. It wasn't. The idea that we haven't had Christmas lights downtown, and then the first year that we do it, people come out and complain about it, that drives me up the wall.
I haven't read any
It's
press, so
ridiculous.
please excuse me. I
It's
was just
ridiculous.
thinking about $30,000 and what I saw. I didn't read any press, didn't mean to upset anybody, but
Yeah.
that was our.
Yeah, we
that
own
was
the
our
lights.
money.
We own the lights now. So next year, we can make another $30,000 investment, we get further down. And as a matter of fact, had we been able to get power, but we can't because the city hasn't fixed those outlets, it would have gone further down.
And just a huge positive point here, we did a lot in a very little amount of time, a very teeny tiny sliver of time with not a lot of resources, and the huge positive that's coming out of this is it truly was a pilot project that the CDB is now going to use in front of council at a presentation next week to hopefully utilize close to $400,000 worth of ARPA money to expand on what the MSD and WDI did this year to truly make this a very bold statement moving forward. So I think what we did here was insanely positive and had been tried and attempted for at least a few years, and we've gotten nowhere. So I think it truly is a catalyst for a lot more funding coming into this in our life.
And it shouldn't be understated that we do own those lights, so it really wasn't just 30,000 and it's all gone. We still have a lot of that, money sitting in the storage container right now.
Yeah, that 50,000 did involve the purchase of the lights, and I also had to purchase some bins to store them. And then in addition to that, we had a few times where the contractor had to come out and fix the lights after a windstorm or rainstorm. I was out there as well, tapping the GCI plugs to make sure that the lights turned back on following a windstorm or rainstorm. Regarding the cost, I was a bit surprised about how expensive it is to put Christmas lights up. I mean, you go out to any contractor and you ask for a proposal and they can shoot for the moon. I mean, one of the proposals we had was near $300,000. It's Christmas lights is a big business. So we can look more carefully next year at the placement and things, and as we move forward, I would love the committee's input on the expansion of the program going forward.
Can we use some of the fund balance, the 500,000 fund balance, and allocate that towards some of the Christmas lighting for this year coming up?
Couldn't imagine what we couldn't.
Absolutely.
One question, Chance, where is the city on the repairs on the, I know they've got to have an engineering study done on the electrical lines that are underwater at high tide. And I know that's the whole gist with not being able to light up the Riverwalk. So even though we can put the 400,000 from ARPA in the purchase of the lights, until the city has the electrical up to speed, but we're going to be storing them.
Yeah, it's in engineering's hands, and really the lights that Terry's referring to are essentially in Mutters Park, south of Dock Street, from Dock Street past Nunn, where the Riverwalk ends. Some of the original infrastructure that was put in, you got some old conduit that was installed underneath the Riverwalk's decking there. So it's with the flow and ebb and flow of the tides, some of that's exposed, a lot of it's getting wet, and there is a project funded, I think, I don't think it's purchasing yet, but it's in engineering's hands. Whether it's gonna get completed prior to next holiday season, I'm not sure yet.
So all the lighting that you saw down by the barge, that was Carl running extension cords from his
For
property.
several years, he's made it quite lovely at his expense, particularly with the overhead. Makes it a lot safer and it's beautiful.
We work with Carl too to try and tie in a few extra light posts to tie into his power, and so we provided the string lights and he provided us the power just to get it a little bit further on the Riverwalk side.
Yeah, it shouldn't be forgotten that nothing is stopping business owners from putting their own Christmas lights up. Carl does it, we do it, several other people do it. I know DBA has the program for their holiday stuff. They can plug in a strand of Christmas lights to their own outlets and run it, to your point, reasonably cheaply. What we're kind of hoping is that by making these investments in the public spaces, some of the shop owners will take responsibility and make downtown a really cool place to be during that 6 weeks of Christmas.
Have a contest
Um,
with us.
And hopefully follow this program through there and do your own Christmas lights. Nothing stopping you.
And there were folks that didn't participate in the DVA's holiday light program and sparred off the initiative that we were doing. I contacted the property owners at 21 Market Street. Since we weren't able to light the Christmas trees this year, I had asked them to see what they could do about lighting their entire building. Now, that building is vacant, but they did end up putting a nice lights display on the front of their property as a way to tie in and just celebrate the holidays a little bit more to what and expand what we were trying to do in that effort. So that we have received some businesses' support and property owners' support for the holiday lights pilot program as well, on top of what DBA already does through the decorating contest.
The goal is to become St. Augustine. If y'all ever seen it, oh my gosh.
That's beautiful.
Or downtown, or Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, we were at that one.
And so with that, if there's any more questions about the holiday lights, I'd be happy to answer or entertain. And if not, I'd really like to ask this committee to just take a look at this proposal one more time. And if there's anything that you'd like to take out, let's go ahead and do it now. If there's anything that you guys would like to see added in, go ahead and let me know. I'll take notes at this point and then kind of massage this budget proposal a little bit more thoroughly.
Could we take and I can help you, Christina, take a look at adding some hours to service hours? Would be the one thing I would like to see.
Okay. When I spoke with our operations manager, and if he knows the team best and he knows how to handle the district the best, hours, if we're looking between both hours and employee retention, he said employee retention was at the top of his list, and then hours behind that. So we can engage with block by block to see what it would be like to increase from 144 to. I know James has said in the past this sweet spot is 210 as far as coverage, but we can increase it by a percentage wise too if the committee feels that we should, maybe 170 or something. I know the sweet spot was 210.
Would he need more bodies to cover that 210?
Possibly in terms of part-time staff.
Okay. If we figure out, you and Jenny will sit down for you.
Sure, absolutely.
My suggestion is to tweak the way the budget's set up in the bottom line item, show almost like a balance sheet, the 500,000 we've got. You're not taking 100 out of the budget, but just say special projects. It's not it's not out of the 500,000.
Right.
But for public knowledge, it'll be nice to show that. Does that make sense? No, it didn't say.
Anything else? Just one. All right. Then I guess we can move on to reports.
There's one more landscape item.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
This one should be a fun one too. So, just some bit of history here. The streetscaping project that the city completed last year on the 200 and 300 blocks of North Front Street, CFUA, utility improvements, all sorts of stuff, landscaping improvements. Midway through the project, the city's engineering department had requested the contractor put up kind of some temporary rope and stake kind of landscaping barriers on the new landscape, and really to just help deter folks from walking through, trampling on the brand new greenery there on those 2 blocks. And as you can see by this photo, the landscaping got trampled as well as some of the temporary stakes and rope there. These have since been removed back in, I believe, November. But Councilman Waddell had noted this, and at the same time had taken a trip to Winston-Salem here. And this is, I think this is one of a few blocks, not all blocks downtown, but one of a few blocks that their actual business improvement district, their MSD, funded the installation of these fenced barriers, as well as they actually funded the landscaping, and I believe there's a third-party contractor maintaining this landscaping for them as well. But the subject has been broached on, would we want to install this type barriers along the blocks of North Front Street, the first 4 blocks, the original streetscaping project between Market and Chestnut, and then the most recent Chestnut to Walnut with the newer landscape and then the corner beds. Would we want to do this? Would the MSD be in support of the city potentially doing this initially, and then some shared maintenance costs down the line by the MSD for repairs, because they're going to get hit by cars, they're going to get trampled, they're going to be touched up with black paint, some of the iron rust. So I don't think we need to take any official action other than right now, city's still trying to decide what they want to do with this idea. I think we're leaning toward let's wait a year and put some more efforts on the Park and Recs team maintaining the new landscaping, getting regular visits, and then evaluating for some time. But they had leaned on me to really just open discussion to the group here on, do you like the idea of really protecting some of these landscaping beds?
I think we just found another special project.
I think Charleston does it. I mean,
And even if we did it in reverse, Chance, even if the city was going to make, if we use some of the special project funds to fund it and put up the iron odds, and then the city is just responsible for the maintenance. I mean.
Yeah, there's a few options here. I think you also have to look at some of these older beds on the first 2 blocks between Market and Chestnut. You got some landscaping beds that also need some TLC on the landscaping side as well.
Well, again, are we going to wind up with another jurisdictional issue? I mean, like you said, okay.
No, I think we're looking for a proactive partnership here, and we're just gonna need to decide, number 1, if we do it, number 2, who funds the front end and who kind of handles some of the ongoing maintenance through the years. So.
Well, again, if we're talking about the fund balance, I mean, Tara, I mean, this is perfect. I mean, let's go see if we can spend $100,000 on that easy, and if the city wanted to do the maintenance, I mean, hell.
Some examples. So Winston's here. There's a very decorative effort, and just so everyone knows, the Winston project, I don't have the linear feet or how many beds they covered, but the Winston project's about $130,000 to do this. The quote that the city has right now is for a little less decorative. It's more kind of by the book, kind of steel 2-tiered fencing, and not the decorative here. They came up with around $39,000 to cover 34 beds. I think they priced the Winston pricing and would come out to around $100,000+ if we were to go more decorative. So there's some variation on what we do in terms of aesthetics and cost, but.
Well, no, I'm for it. It also depends on if we're only going on Front Street, what, like you said, with it getting hit by cars, do you want to do something that's more like that, depending on the block? Like if it's a project that's successful, we move it up to like 3rd Street or something, something like that would be more, I would think.
Yeah, they quoted 3 sides to avoid any car door conflicts, and this is actually a pretty good example. So on 3rd Street right now, with that project that happened 10, 15 years ago on North 3rd, they actually installed the concrete barriers, just no upper barrier. But the concrete's there actually on 3rd Street, whereas Front Street is pretty much flush with the sidewalk, which basically enables a lot of that pedestrian foot traffic.
I would go even broader on special project. I mean, I would go from Princess Street to Chestnut, from the old Coast Guard property, And I know it's jurisdictional, but we could start the project,
Oh, yeah.
take the asphalt off, clear it, do things. Later on, the city can come over and finish it off. But I think, you know, if you want to do something big, I totally agree with everything that's been presented. And I just think that if you're gonna go start tapping into that $500,000, do it with both feet in.
Agreed.
Yeah, but do it right.
Yeah, let's spend the money on the nice ones, you know, if it's another 20% to get ones that'll last and look good, go for it.
Yeah.
And other major cities do a sponsorship program, so you could plaque, I mean, if we wanted to go public and people do that.
Cool. So it sounds like,
Yeah, that's a yes.
so it sounds
Need
like,
a motion?
I don't
Or just
think we
get
need
the
to take
checkbook out?
official action here yet, but it sounds like it's a favorable yes. And,
But I agree with everybody else. I think we need to do it with both feet, just, even if we throw, I mean, I'd be happy seeing it spending 200 grand if we came up some of the side streets. I mean, just do it and do it right and get it done.
And do we agree that when doing it, we also backfill those landscaping beds, whether it's city funded or MSD funded? We don't have to decide on that now, but the first two blocks where any of the landscaping that needs some TLC and some new plant material, do that at the exact same time. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
all
Yeah,
fresh.
just get it done. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I just think we need to be very clear with the city of Wilmington. These special projects, we want to go forward with. We hope that we get cooperation from them. But these are projects that add value to the citizenry in downtown Wilmington. We've lost green space a lot because of all the building of the units and things, which is all great generating revenue. But we need more green space. And we've got just an idle, huge piece of green space, perfectly settled right next to the Cape Fear River. There's not a better spot in town. We just gotta go ahead with it.
Talking to Coast Guard.
We have to get cooperation from the city, because if you remember, when the tree well project was asked for, we got a lot of pushback saying nothing could be done. The tree roots were in the way, this wouldn't fly, the arborists got involved. It was very difficult to get anything approved, but finally, there was some beautification, not exactly what we wanted, like the picture that's on the screen right now, but city has to go along with us.
Bobby and Chris, to your points, I think very, very similar dialogue was noted when this committee approved the landscaping on Third Street of where is that city's base service, right? And I believe that's echoed through some departments, and they have told me they are working on getting back to that true base level service downtown, and landscaping beds in general. They're looking at least having someone down here every other week, trash, weeds, a semi-annual mulching, so twice a year mulching of all of the beds downtown, as well as new plant material. So what this committee voiced a few months ago has been relayed. So just want to make sure everyone knows that, it's not going on deaf ears.
Also, the garden club still wants to
If
be.
anybody talks to the city about this, be sure that they know that plants die without irrigation.
Yeah.
They will be planted and then they will die and then they will be replanted. That's our problem downtown.
So support, got
Yes.
it. All right, I'll relay, and then down the line, we'll work on schematics between city's role, MSD's role, funding, ambassadors, all that good stuff.
Do we have any idea on contractors or even potential folks that have done similar work that have done?
The Park and Rec team contacted someone they know locally. We also have the contact of the firm that did it out of Winston as
Okay,
well.
right.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to get a proposal from them or someone similar.
Yep.
The picture you have up now is Bijou Park.
This is Bijou Park, yeah, and this was another example. I think this was in their list of potentially putting the barriers.
Yeah.
That'd be-
One thing about Bijou Park now is it is very
animal or dog friendly.
Mhm.
Those barriers, depending on what you choose and how, they could be very unfriendly.
Good. Again, I like the three, the.
We gotta stop dogs from peeing on everything. Dogs pee on everything and kill it. When that park went in, I offered to install a pet or leaf station, but I think all the dogs in the world would use it, but it got shot down. That dogs don't need to pee on landscaping.
I can
There's
voice,
nowhere else, nowhere else for them to go.
I can voice that, so.
But again, even with the three-side one, in certain places where there are, we do need dog relief stations. But, yeah, I mean, that looks great. Scroll back down, up.
This one? Yeah, this was a Google shot. I'm not sure. I think it's Alexandria,
Yeah.
Virginia, maybe in their old town. But you know, a good example of where you know landscaping isn't in the greatest shape, but you know just that barrier alone
Yeah,
adds
that was-
some positive aesthetics there.
And I do think more decorative versus utilitarian look. Because I'm probably 12, 15 years ago on Vision 2020, there was a discussion of getting rid of the granite curbs and going with concrete, and there was a mutiny. Even the mayor of Charleston told them, do not get rid of your granite.
Chance, when you reach out to Winston-Salem, would it be possible to get an inventory of the number of beds that they have outlined and how much it costs? Also, I'm really interested to see how much it costs them to have a third-party contractor actually perform that work. I mean, we've even with the $20,000 that we pumped into Third Street, I mean, that project, it's already starting to deteriorate. It's not enough mulch. And when I went to Atlanta, Georgia, they had in downtown Georgia, they had very similar guards around their landscaping beds. Their mulch was filled, I want to say 4 or 5 inches high, which would require constant maintenance.
Well, to add to the point, once some of these barriers go up, it's amazing how much mulch will stay. Well, you know, when people aren't walking through it and kicking it over and wind's blowing through it and, so.
Yeah, we can ask those questions in terms of how many linear feet and all that stuff. And just in terms of the landscaping piece alone, how many they maintain and what the plan is each year in terms of frequent visits, watering. There was a note in here, I'm losing it, but similar to the hanging baskets, the Winston-Salem team did relay that it is very, very, very labor intensive in summertime due to the constant watering, and it is a big undertaking to make them constantly, you know, have that appearance there, so.
I think somebody like Dagmar Cooley's landscape architects that understand heritage planting, you know, things that don't have to be watered and they're native to this area, that's smart.
Yeah, planting the right material is step one.
Asiatic jasmine that we planted, it's right out in front of the Wells Fargo building on 3rd Street, in a more, you know, in an aged form, and I've seen that planted within these gated landscaping beds as well, and it also looks very nice, and that's very low maintenance. And that's the reason why we used the Asiatic jasmine plants in the last landscaping contract we fulfilled.
Do you need anything else from us?
Not
All
at this
right.
time, thanks.
No, absolutely. Then on to reports. Is Lieutenant Nichols with us? Maybe?
I haven't seen him on in about half an hour.
Okay, and jump over to WDI.
May I ask a question?
Oh, sure, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, what happened to Placus and the plate glass?
Construction.
Oh, construction, that's it, okay.
Yeah, there's
So from
work.
inside?
Yeah.
That's better than it could be. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some major renovations
Yeah, I know
happening on
they're
that
doing the
building right
big,
now, yeah.
it just seemed like a major window.
And that's Good Night and Normal and those guys, right?
Yeah.
And
They're
old school
down to
builders,
earth.
yeah.
All right, then we'll come back to Lieutenant Nichols, if you can back on and start with WDI.
I've done a lot of talking today. If you guys have any questions or concerns from the recent MSD reports, I'd be happy to entertain those questions. You know, the only other update that I really have is we are trying to do a campaign to lure some of the business off of 3rd Street to downtown during the peak rush hour to encourage motorists to veer off of 3rd Street, come have a dinner, shop, take a walk on the Riverwalk, go to a fitness center. So we are currently developing that campaign and hope to have support from the business community and all of our organizational partners in that regard. And that's all.
Thank you, Christina, and over to Chance.
All right, I'll take lightning round, since we're breaking all of Clark's rules and rolling into almost 20 past 4. I honestly don't have much on the city side of updates. Christina covered the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. I think those lane closures are starting in January, and then continuing on to Zelig Festival. There's a break, and then they're swapping lane closures. So downtown will be impacted, hopefully on the positive side. It's not just going to be traffic and folks sitting in traffic and not stopping. Hopefully there is a positive, and those folks normally don't drive through downtown will stop and shop and eat and dine.
Truckers?
Trucks are being diverted to College Road, so trucks are not going to be allowed to drive on North 3rd Street, the city's portion of those streets. So
Good job, city.
The city has relayed that to NCDOT. The trucks will be routed out to College Road and looped around downtown.
College Road's a mess already.
They'll get used to it. Thank you to the city on keeping 3rd Street out of it. Really good job.
And then the only other thing I had to add is I believe we have a new member on here, Mr. James McGee. Jimmy, if you're still on here, he was appointed by City Council back in August or September of this past year, and I think this might be his first meeting sitting in. So Jimmy, I just want to let everyone know, let you introduce yourself. I don't know if you have anything to say. I don't want to put you on the spot, but just wanted to introduce you to the committee.
Not much, but, you know, to say, but, I'm on Princess Street. If anybody's ever in the area, I'm at 218 Princess Street. I'm a sole proprietor law firm. I do criminal defense down here, and, I've seen good things for, with the people walking around cleaning things up down here. I've been down here 20 years and, seen some good changes.
Thanks for being a part of it, Jimmy.
Yeah. Welcome aboard.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, with that, that's all. So we can get out of here. I need a motion to close the
Make a
meeting.
motion, we adjourn.
All right. Second. All in favor, stand up.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.